Hey guys, so I wanted to go over something that a lot of people are having a really hard time understanding. And it's resulting in questions like, what is the best rep range for muscle growth? Or what is the best set duration or time under load? Or what is the best amount of weight to use for optimal muscle growth? And the reason people are still having these questions is simply because a lot of people don't really understand how muscle fibers or motor units are recruited in sequential order based on demand, all right, or based on effort, all right. So let's go over some very brief physiology first. And you've probably heard me say a million times at this point, the Henneman's size principle, all right. This was established in the field of neurology in 1957 by Harvard professor Dr. Elwood Henneman. All right. So what he found was your body recruits higher threshold or faster twitch motor units based on the amount of effort or intensity. All right. So for instance, if I contract against my fist like this, let's say I'm using like 20% of effort, and then I gradually increase and push as hard as I can, what's allowing me to produce more force is more motor unit recruitment, okay? So say right now I'm only recruiting, I don't know, for the sake of easy to understand numbers, it would be a lot more than this. But let's say, for instance, I'm only recruiting 20 motor units, and it's mostly slow twitch motor units because I could hold this for quite a long time and not really fatigue. But say I needed more contractile force, or what people mistakenly like to call tension. How am I going to get those muscle fibers involved? How am I going to get those fast twitch, glycolytic, high contractile capacity, fast twitch motor units involved? How am I going to send the impulse to contract them? I have to decide to push hard, right? So if I start to push really hard, my nervous system starts to send impulses to the motor nerves that are attached to the high threshold fast twitch motor units. These are the motor units that produce the most force, but they're the hardest to get to, and they fatigue very quickly. The slow twitch motor units, they don't produce much force. So if I'm pushing with like 20% effort, they don't produce much force, but they're very fatigue resistant, okay? So your body goes from slow to fast in sequential order, okay? Every time. If I lift something really heavy once, it just goes from slow to fast really quickly. If I do a set of, say, 10 repetitions to failure, it goes from slow to fast motor units relatively slowly. Let me just turn this on Do Not Disturb, of course, so you guys don't hear the dinging. So, whether you use a heavy weight, a moderate weight, or what we would consider, a lightweight, maybe something that takes 30 reps, you're going to go from slow to fast twitch motor units no matter what, as long as you're approaching very high effort, intense reps. Because it's that intensity and the effort which makes your nervous system send impulses to the motor nerves to contract the fast twitch motor units, okay? Now, how does this play into muscle growth? Well, if we want to get to all the available motor units, we have to get to that point where we're pushing really hard, because that's the only time our nervous system sends impulse to those motor nerves, to those muscle fibers. These also happen to be the muscle fibers that grow the most, okay? You've heard fast twitch, slow twitch, muscle fibers, things like that. The fast twitch muscle fibers are the ones that grow the most. And like I said, they're the ones that are hardest to get to. So say, you just do a set and you stop at the point where, you see this all the time in the gym. People do a set of curls, they'll do one hard one, and then they'll set it down. That's when you were just starting to tap into those hard to reach muscle fibers that grow the most. So a couple problems many people have when it comes to their training is they're not tapping into them. So they probably got about 40% available muscle fibers that they're not even tapping into and stimulating to grow. And they're just giving up once it starts to get tough. And they're not tapping into the motor units that grow the most. So you can see why people lack gains a lot of the time. Because if you're training within your comfort zone and stopping when it starts to get tough, not only are you not tapping into a ton of muscle fiber that you're just leaving on the table, you're not tapping into the fibers that grow the most. This is why when I coach people and teach them how to train really hard and how to stoically and under control contract those muscles as hard as you could even imagine, that's why people see such good muscle growth when I coach them. Okay? So now that's motor unit recruitment, size principle out of the way. Now, if I choose a weight that allows me to reach failure in 5 reps, I'm still sequentially going from slow to fast twitch motor units. I'm just doing so very quickly. Now, say I choose to fail with 20 reps. I do it a little more slowly. You still start with slow twitch and end with fast twitch if you're training to failure or at very minimum extremely close to it. Okay? Whether that happens in 5 reps, 6 to 8, 8 to 12 makes no difference. Okay? We've known this for, going on 80 years. Okay? We've known this for a long time, and it was later confirmed by research. I believe it was Schoenfeld studied hypertrophy in different rep ranges, found them all to be identical if you're training hard. Okay? I'll post the link to the paper in the description there. So it doesn't matter which weight you choose. I personally prefer to fail within about 6 to 8 reps. Some people, however, may prefer to fail around 12 to 15 reps using a slightly lighter load and a slightly longer set duration, maybe something around 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. Some people can fail between 3 and 5. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long the set is. All that matters is that you get to the point where you're contracting really hard and making your nervous system recruit those motor units. All right? Now, there's pros and cons of each rep range. Let's start with heavy load, lower rep ranges. The question said, what's better for muscle growth? 1 to 5, 6 to 8, something like that. Okay. So if we're staying, say, let's put it together like, 4 to 6 reps. Say you're choosing a load that allows you to fail between 4 and 6 reps. Generally, this could be kind of heavy, right? So what do we know about heavy weight? Increases force. Potentially, not necessarily, if you're doing it with really good form and control, it's not going to be dangerous. Potentially more dangerous if you're using heavier load. That's the downside. What's the upside? Your sets are quick, real quick. Another upside I've noticed training a ton of people is that some people tend to push way harder with more effort with heavier load. This is why you'll see, people who don't know any better say you need heavy weight for mass and heavy weight for strength. Well, people generally push harder with heavier weight and not as hard with lighter weight. Okay, they just don't know any better, so they don't put it together. But as long as your last couple of reps are extremely intense, doesn't matter. Okay, now let's look at lighter weight. Let's say you're reaching failure between 10 and 15. We'll just say arbitrary numbers. What's the upside to that? Lower force, safer. What's the downside? Well, your sets are a little longer, potentially, a little bit more wear and tear on your joints over time, more opening and closing of that joint. Another downside, pretty boring sometimes. I personally don't like doing high rep anything. It's boring. Some people get mentally checked out if they're doing a long set. A 10 to 15 rep set, if you're doing it slow and controlled, it could be a 1.5 to 2 minutes of time under load. Generally kind of boring. So when it comes to choosing a rep range, as long as you're training to failure, go with what you like, okay? If you like going heavier, go heavier. If you like going lighter, go lighter. If in my studios, if I had, a 23-year-old guy or a 25-year-old guy with weight training experience, probably going to go a little heavier for him, get him to push hard. If, I was training, an 80-year-old woman, I've had, 70, 80-year-old clients who've gone through cancer treatment. I'm going to train them lighter. I may even utilize multiple sets, slowly getting them to the point where they're actually pushing kind of hard to get that stimulus. So it's also going to depend on the situation, okay? Preference, particular situation, even equipment. If you use some of this equipment in gyms that is very sticky, poorly maintained, and got a lot of friction, you're probably going to want to go a little heavier to overcome that friction. The list goes on, all these different variables. So I think when people ask questions like this, what rep range is best for muscle growth, chances are, the individual isn't seeing explosive muscle growth, okay, or none at all, and it's disappointing. So they're starting to nitpick variables like rep range and equipment and frequency and volume, free weights versus machines, all these variables that do not really affect how well you grow muscle, because the problem is the individual probably is not training nearly as hard as they should be, okay? So a lot of times I get these questions, people start nitpicking these variables, like, oh, maybe I should do a different rep range, maybe that's why I'm not growing muscle. No. If you're not getting stronger or putting on muscle, you're not training hard enough. I know you think you are. I know you think you're training hard. Most people are training what they perceive as hard, but it is not hard enough. Is it hard enough for some muscle growth and some improvements in strength? Yes. Is it hard enough for the most muscle growth and the most strength you as an individual can get? No, not even close, okay? So if you find yourself in this position, nitpicking how much protein, how many calories, your supplements, the time of day you're training, just minute variables, without a doubt, you're very likely not training hard enough, okay? And I can teach you, click the link in the description, join my coaching, and I will teach you how to do this, okay? But, just to wrap up this video, keep in mind, none of these variables make a difference in the long run. And I mean none of them. I've tried them all on myself, my clients, online coaching clients, tried everything. I've read the research, none of these variables. Volume, frequency, machines or free weights, repetition speed, rep range, none of that shit makes any difference in the long run, considering you are training hard. So if you're finding you're focusing on these other details, chances are you're not training hard enough, okay? Go ahead, hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification icon so you can be notified when I attack more of these questions and help teach you how to get the best physique you can possibly get within minimal time in the gym and zero chance of injury. And I'll see you next time.